Coming up, Governor Ron DeSantis vetoing legislation that would have ended Florida's no-fault rule after mounting pressure from critics who argued that the bill would push up rates for many drivers. We're going to take a deeper dive into this situation when we come back. So Governor Ron DeSantis has vetoed legislation that would have ended Florida's no-fault rule after mounting pressure from critics who argued the bill would push up rates for many drivers. The measure seeking to end that requirement that Floridians purchase $10,000 in personal injury protection coverage would instead require mandatory bodily injury coverage that would pay out up to $25,000 for a crash-related injury or death. Senate Bill 54, simply titled Motor Vehicle Insurance, does not get the governor's signature.
That's right. Instead, he sent a letter to the Secretary of State explaining why he vetoed it, saying while the PIP system is flawed, this bill did not adequately address the current issues that face Florida drivers. Joining us now is Mark Friedlander, Director of Corporate Communications for the Insurance Information Institute. Extensive, vast industry experience in talking about this with the insurance industry, has held many leadership positions throughout all of this. So what are the issues that you think are facing Florida drivers here that the governor is speaking of?
Well, the problem with this bill was it would raise rates for most Florida drivers, on average at least $200. But for all of the drivers that have minimum coverage on their auto policies today, the rates could have jumped as much as $800. And Florida already has amongst the highest auto insurance rates in the country. So this bill was very problematic. It was not a good piece of legislation, and I would say this is a very good day for Florida drivers and Florida consumers overall.
Mark, let me ask you, why is it so expensive to insure a car here? I mean, this bill was initially, anyway, designed to help with that, right?
Well, there's two big issues here, Bill, in Florida. One is uninsured drivers. Florida has amongst the highest uninsured driver rates in the country, about 20%, and this bill would have even driven that level higher, which would make things worse, not better. And then Florida is also ripe with insurance fraud, and that's one of the big problems with PIP. PIP opens the doors to fraud, and we all realize PIP needs to be fixed. We know that, but unfortunately, this piece of legislation may have made matters worse in Florida in terms of what the cost would be to the average driver.
Okay, well, this piece of legislation was supposed to address some of those issues like mandating that coverage for bodily injury or death. Of course, not passed, not signed by the governor. But, you know, here's the thing with all of this, insurance is confusing enough for so many folks. So I feel like, does this create even more of a confusion for people at home?
Well, no, because everything's staying the same. Nothing's changing. So what you have written on your auto policy today remains in place. Whereas if the bill would have been passed by the governor, then everybody's policy would have to change effective January 1st. So nothing changes. You have the same level of coverage July 1st as you did June 30th. And unless you personally decide to make changes to your policy, it's going to stay the same next year as well. So no changes.
So thank you, Governor DeSantis. You saved us, at least in the short run.
And a phone call.
Exactly. Clearly the critics were very, very strong on this. Both the insurance industry as well as consumer groups were all in agreement that this bill was going to hurt Florida drivers. So the governor made the right decision here, no doubt.
Back to the drawing board in the legislature again next year, huh?
Exactly.
All right. Mark Friedlander with the Insurance Institute, or Insurance Information Institute. Thank you again for joining us today to give your perspective on this and all of it, how it affects all of us.
Thanks for having me.